In October of 2023, I participated in a fundamentals course with Global Underwater Explorers. I had many ideas of what I thought this course would be. I had many misconceptions going in. And the goal of this series is to highlight the misconceptions one might have about GUE and their standard of training. I sit down and speak with 5 instructors across the globe to hear their stories and gain some insight into this agency whose approach begins with the end in mind.
Because I wanted to give people that good foundation to go out and enjoy it, to not be worried so much like how to move, how to control buoyancy, fear of crashing into things. I wanted people to go out and enjoy the dives that they were doing.
Off-Gassing, a scuba podcast with host Nick Hogel. In this first of a 5-episode series, I interviewed Gemma Thomas, an instructor evaluator and recreational administrator for GUE who is based out of Singapore. I spoke with Gemma before she headed out to the Global Underwater Explorers 25th Anniversary Conference. I first met Gemma when I contacted her to enroll in a fundamentals course. I sit down with her as she tells me about how she first became certified in diving after moving to Southeast Asia, her pathway through the agency, the benefits of taking a fundies course, and some misconceptions about GUE training. Please enjoy. Gemma, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am doing very well. Just worked all day. It's Friday, so I'm excited to have the whole weekend ahead of me. You got any big plans this weekend?
Fly to the US on Sunday.
Oh, okay. Are you excited?
Yes and no. It's a 68-hour flight, so not really looking forward to the flight, but it should be good once I get there.
That is quite the journey, so hopefully, it goes by quick. Well, one, I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast today, and I'll just jump right in with my first question. Tell me how and why you got into scuba diving, that first breath, that first experience. Tell me all about it.
Kind of by accident. So I'd moved to Singapore to start work, and it was meant to be, I believe, some kind of company event where we all went off to go scuba diving. In the end, it was me and my boss. So it was about 5 days after I'd moved to Singapore, I found myself doing theory for open water. Following day, I was in the pool. And then the week after was my first trip to Malaysia to go and do the open water dives. So it was an introduction to Asia and living here, and then an introduction to scuba diving all in those first 2 weeks, which was kind of crazy.
Did you ever think about getting certified before that? Or was it just kind of like they're offering, I'm going, have to go?
It had never really crossed my mind. Like, I'd snorkeled a bit, and then that was as far as I got. It was something I didn't think that much of, and even after I got certified, I think that first year I did 11 dives. So I did another trip off to Malaysia and did a liveaboard, and I was like, okay, this is kind of nice. And then the following season, again, with the guy that I'd done the open water with, he's like, we should go do advanced, we should go and do the GUE fundamentals course. So I was like, okay, let's go and do that. And then it was more a case of, I'm living in Asia, maybe I should make the most of this and I should go dive more. So then I started diving more at weekends and planning my holidays around diving.
Oh, okay. So you did your advanced, and where in Malaysia were you going to do the, I'm assuming, open water portion of it?
The open water was done in Pulau Au, which is just south of Tioman. And then for advanced and fundies, we went to Tioman.
Oh, okay.
Which is an island on the east coast of Peninsula Malaysia.
Okay.
One that you can get to for a weekend from Singapore.
Yeah, no, and obviously we were just there, so
You've seen it yourself now.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed my time there. I'm actually bummed that it took me as long as it did to get out there. I'd been living here a year before I was able to make it out there, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. What was the other island that the first one that you said?
Pulau Au. So it's a little bit further south. It was a really popular dive spot from Singapore for quite a while, and then It was closed for a while. I believe it's opening up again, but haven't been recently.
Okay. Why was it closed?
Don't know. There are various rumors going on around it, but not really sure what the real reason as to why it closed was. But I imagine now that it would be amazing diving. There were bump heads. The water was a lot clearer there. And so given how much the reefs around Tillman have improved lately, I imagine the reefs around Pulau Ao have bounced back a lot as well. There should be a lot of good wildlife to go and see there.
Okay. I'll have to write that down on my list of places to visit. So advanced to, I guess it would be rescue, or what was the progression after advanced? And at this point, you said you were more invested into the scuba diving. So talk about the progression from advanced to, I guess, instructor.
So I did advanced and then fundamentals after that. And then I dived for a year. And I had no intention of progressing towards instructor. And people would ask, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Can you guide dives? Can you lead me? And I was very much like, nope, I'm not a dive master. I'm not an instructor. I can't teach you how to do any of that. And there were a group of us that were diving quite a lot together. And eventually they kind of convinced me that I should look into becoming a dive master. So I started down that journey, did rescue and then straight away started off with the dive master course, which was pretty much done as a season of doing pool sessions here in Singapore and then going off and diving around Malaysia.
Going from advanced to fundamentals, talk about that a little bit. Was there a big, because obviously, fundamentals is I mean, there's some rumors and some myths, some misconceptions, and I will admit I was under the spell of some of these misconceptions. But talk about, like, if somebody were going to progress from advanced to fundamentals, how was your process going through that?
I think mine was kind of different in that I did my open water course with a GUE instructor, and so there was a lot of the GUE influences throughout, and then all the people we were diving with from that point onwards were all GUE trained. So I was very much used to seeing people doing dives in double tanks. They were there doing the preparation, getting ready for dives. They were diving together as a team. Everyone was looking out for each other. So this is the way I assumed the world dived. And it was only after fundies, I think, where I did my first dive with non-GUE people. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is not how everybody else is diving as well. So that was more of a surprise than the fundamentals was. I kind of knew what I was getting into because I'd been talking to everybody right from the start about GUE.
Oh, okay. When you became a dive master, kind of talk about, did you just you said you went through the program in Singapore, or was that rescue? Yep. Sorry.
No, so I did both. So everything was with a dive shop here in Singapore. Like, the biggest learning bit that I found the hardest going into dive master was the dive briefings. I was very much the person who would go on a trip and everyone would forget that I was there or not realize I was there because was very, very quiet. Didn't really like talking to anybody. And then here I was with a boatload of people staring at me as I had to give the dive briefing, and that I found tough. It was completely out of my comfort zone. I hated it and became very succinct and figured out the shortest ways I could give all the information that people needed to then go dive. Over the years, and as I've met a lot more people and obviously teach and guide people, then I've got a lot more comfortable with it. But that was the biggest adjustment learning that I had to do during the entire dive master course.
I guess that is a form of public speaking, which I don't know I don't think that's the number one fear, but I definitely know that is a fear that a lot of people have, or a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, I should say.
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest thing I was uncomfortable with.
It seems like you kind of got pushed into the dive master. When and how did you decide that you wanted to become an instructor?
The same guys that I did the dive master course with also wanted to become instructors, and at the time I was working full-time, and so didn't really think I had that much time, but they convinced me and somehow signed me up that I was going to go and do the PADI instructor course, which again I did here in Singapore. I did it over a month of evening classes and then went off to Phuket to do my instructor exam there.
How did you like that?
the training course was fine. The instructor exam was, nobody knew who I was. So it was always like, you go and be the dive master and we'll signal okay to you every now and again when they were doing the skills and the practice, because everybody else knew each other. So that was kind of tricky to get into. But after that, and then came back and started teaching.
Okay. And so obviously you are still an instructor, but what position, what title do you hold now?
So now I'm a GUE instructor. So I teach recreational level 1, level 2, teach fundamentals, and I can train instructors for recreational and fundamental courses. So I'm an instructor trainer for recreational and fundamentals, and an instructor examiner for recreational 1 and 2. And currently I'm the recreational admin for GUE, so working for them as well.
Okay. Well, definitely a few questions there. So the transition from, so you said that you kind of started with GUE instructors from the very beginning. Was that kind of the drive to get to become a GUE instructor, or talk about, I guess, your transition from a PADI instructor to a GUE instructor? I assume there'd be some differences, or there would be, what's the word I'm looking for? It wouldn't be as easy as just doing a crossover.
No, so, to become a GUE instructor, then you have to go and do, at that point, an instructor training course, then intern with some classes, and once you're confident with all aspects of the class, you then teach one under the supervision of an instructor examiner who would then sign you off. So the process to become a GUE instructor was a lot longer and a lot more involved than it was to become a PADI instructor. So I think it took me 3 years to become a GUE instructor. I was working full-time at the same time, so I didn't have that much leave to go away and get involved in teaching classes. So I think that's probably why it took so much time back then. But the reason I did it was that I very much liked the fundamentals course, and I was very passionate about the recreational course, in that it was, or it is, a lot longer course with GUE, but I felt that it gave people a lot better foundational training. And I kind of struggled a little bit in the very short courses, and then expecting people to suddenly go from kneeling doing skills to be able to swim around comfortably. And I didn't really have the time to do it the way that I necessarily wanted to teach it, which is why I became quite passionate about the recreational courses, because I wanted to give people that good foundation to go out and enjoy it, to not be worried so much like how to move, how to control buoyancy, fear of crashing into things. I wanted people to go out and enjoy the dives that they were doing.
If you were to have a conversation with your fresh out of open water diver, do you think that you would be where you are today with just kind of like, oh, I'll try this out with my new boss, and then now you're full on instructor? So
I never envisaged that this is where I would end up. Not in a million years did I think that this is what I'm doing.
So for a lot of the listeners out there that don't know, I just took the fundamentals course with you, and it definitely opened up my eyes to a few things, reinforced some skills, opened up my eyes to other things, and really, really enjoyed the course. So thank you very much on that. And I came in, I think I was even telling you, I had a lot of misconceptions. I had some ideas of what I thought this was going to be, what I didn't think it was going to be. So, and to be honest, I'll even say that I knew that there was some recreational programs with GUE, but I did not know to the extent. And I feel that most people think that as well. Like, it's like, oh, when you think of GUE, you think of, the high caliber, top tier group of divers. And so it was kind of interesting for me to see that there is this whole recreational side of it.
And I remember you looking quite surprised when you asked if I would take somebody on a fundamentals course with 4 dives. And I was like, I do it all the time. Like, I have a lot of people who are coming in with very few dives, and the fundamentals course did not have to be done in double tanks and dry suits. I have a lot of people coming in doing it wetsuits and single tanks, and they want that good fundamental skills, which is critical if you're going off in a cave, going to dive deep. But it's also amazingly reassuring and gives you that confidence to go out and just dive, whether it's 4 meters on a reef enjoying the fish, or you want to go out and take photos and videos. To have that stability can be a game changer, I think.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So me and Becca, my girlfriend, took the class, obviously, with you, and she went into fundamentals after her advanced open water. And, luckily we were able to have a fun dive at the end of the course, and game changer, like 100%. It was just, it was huge. The diving that we did, because we've obviously been diving together. So yeah, the improvement after that course is so apparent. You can see it in a lot of divers. Well, I would assume in a lot of divers, but I wanted to go back just a tad bit. So what are the most common myths or misconceptions? Because I know I was chatting with you about some, but what are some of the things that you hear that are like, what? What are you talking about?
So I hear a lot about dry suits, and I've had people come up and ask me, how come you're a GUE diver and you're not diving in a dry suit? And for me, it's the right tool for the right job. Like, you experienced it yourself. The air temperature is like 38, something like that. The water temperature was crazy hot. It was 33 to 31 degrees when the 31 felt cold, right? It's hot and it's really quite unpleasant. And at that point, a rash guard and leggings is perfectly fine. Right, it's all you really need is thermal protection. Having said that, when I went off to Europe and was diving there and it was much colder, then I loved the dry suit. But you don't have to do it in a dry suit. And a lot of people seem to have this misconception that you have to. Or I've had people being told that everything they have to wear is black. I've had people turn up for the course and I have red fins or I have green fins. I have a blue wing, my rash guard is turquoise, my leggings are green. Like, I'm a mix and match of colors. And I've had people come to the class, they pull out their fins, then they see mine and they look of horror. And I'm like, what's wrong? And they're like, but the man in the shop wouldn't sell me pink fins. And I'm like, it's fine, you can have pink fins. It doesn't everything have to be black. And I really don't know where this has come from, but that crops up quite a lot. I've had people want different colored hoses, and they've been a bit scared to have that, even down to the color of wings. Like, there's amazing colored wings now, and like the bright pink ones are fantastic. You can see them from a mile away, but people are still slightly scared as to whether or not I'll accept them on the course. So they're the two that crop up a lot. And there's also the ones that it is only for technical divers, people who want to get into tech or cave. And here I see an awful lot of people wanting to do it for recreational diving.
Okay. So you were also telling me a funny one the other day about the sea urchins.
Oh, someone was told that I will make them do skills above a field of sea urchins so that if they lose buoyancy and crash into them, they're going to get stabbed by the sea urchins. And then, I mean, you've seen the dive site, right? It's basically sand. There are no sea urchins there. We went looking for a sea urchin so we could take a picture of it for her friend. And it took like an entire dive and there's one wedged into the wreck somewhere. So I was like, can you imagine if I had to find a field of sea urchins, then I don't know how I was going to be conducting this class. But yes, no, there is no life-threatening danger below you as you're doing the course. It's all fine.
So, well, I guess I'll come to the fundamentals question in a little bit, but how many recreational courses do you think that you teach a year? Like, I guess GUE in general, is there like a big recreational scene, or like
I should know this, but I don't know how many are taught around the world. I know it's not the most commonly taught class, and I think over time here I've been teaching more and more each year, and I actually get more people requesting it. And with GUE's requirement to do the 25 experience dives between courses, I had quite a lot of recreational one divers trained up before COVID, and they're kind of clocking their dives. And now I'm seeing an increase in requests for Rec 2, which is made up of navigation, rescue, and deeps, which is kind of a triox primer. So 3 different courses combined into one to give you this Recreational 2 certification, which is open to anybody who's done Rec 1 or Fundamentals course. And so now I'm trying to highlight to the world what's involved in this Rec 2 course, because I think it's actually a very good skill set to have, particularly around here where a lot of the dives are all dive master led. So you get very little experience of guiding yourself. So people will just be very comfortable with following the person's fins in front of them. And so this is giving them that independence to go out and plan their dives.
Rec 1, what would be, if you were going to go in and take a Rec 1 course, what are the differences that you could say from just taking a standard open water course from another agency?
So it is GUE's open water course. So it's for people who have no experience in diving or limited experience. And you will learn using a backplate, long hose configuration, same fins that everybody else is using. But it's a longer course, so it's taught over 6 days. You have 6 open water dives, and then you have 10 aquatic sessions, so 10 kind of confined sessions done in either a pool or very shallow water. And it starts off, before you even get into scuba gear, we'll do some snorkeling sessions. So getting people comfortable with body position in the water, breathing through the mouth, clearing water out of a mask with the snorkel on the surface without all that extra stress of having the gear on them. Then we'll teach them how to kick, which again gives you that comfort that you know how to move through the water. And only after that will we start putting people in gear, give them that time to practice kicking in shallow water so that if anything they can stand up, to relax a little bit, because you want to feel comfortable before you start throwing skills at people. And so after you've given them that chance to swim around, then we slowly start to introduce all the skills that they will need. Depending on how you conduct the course, before you've completed all of the aquatic sessions, then you can go off and do a couple of the open water dives. So you can go down to 12 meters, and the first dive is just diving, to go and look at fish, to go and look at whatever there is around, to give people that experience and that time to enjoy diving without the stress of doing a lot of the skills. And then after that, we will start introducing all of the skills that they've done in the shallows and getting them to do them a little bit deeper. And by the end of it, people look like super comfortable divers. One of the last girls I had who was doing Rec 1, we were on a boat with a group of other people, so they were doing their own thing. And she was getting ready. She was running through the checklist before we went diving. She then descended. We swam around. We came up, and the guys on the boat were like, "Oh, so how's your dive master training course going?" And she looked kind of horrified, and she was like, "Oh no, I think it was her third ever dive," and their faces kind of dropped. So the comfort level is amazing, and it's awesome to see what people are able to do fairly quickly during their dives.
I was actually just having a conversation with Becca about this, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm just that far removed from being a newer diver. I mean, I still tell people, like, yeah, I'm a relatively new diver. I've been diving for like 6 or 7 years, compared to somebody that's been diving for 30 plus years or something. But I want to say that I feel that there is more of a push towards not teaching on the knees, teaching neutral buoyancy, and getting these core fundamental skills down. Do you think that's why you're seeing a rise in your recreational courses?
I think so. I mean, a lot of the interest comes from friends, family members of people who have done fundamentals, and they are like, just learn it right from the start. You don't have to unlearn anything or relearn skills, just do it neutrally buoyant from the beginning. And so from that, you end up with a growing group of people who are interested in the recreational courses.
Okay, and so I'll be honest, how I gravitated toward, I started out, I think like a lot of people started out in a jacket style BCD, and then I eventually gravitated towards a backplate and wing, and my biggest reason for doing that was to be able to travel more lightly, a big jacket style BCD as opposed to a backplate and wing. And then after I kind of got into that configuration, I started to see the benefits of having a backplate and wing. But can you explain why? I mean, you don't need to. I guess, yeah, just kind of go into why a backplate and wing, like why you think it's better, and then also the long hose configuration for people that might not know what that is.
I mean, so I did my open water in a jacket BC as well, and I think I did maybe 8 dives on the jacket and then switched over to the back plate because everybody around me was using it. So for me, when I'm sizing people up, a back plate will fit any body size. So you can adjust it to fit you. So a lot of the times if you're between sizes on a jacket, it's either too big, too small, which makes it a little bit more uncomfortable. So then the back plate you can size. It's very freeing on the front, but it's securely held to your body. All the lift is at the back. It's a nice donut, so it's a lot easier to dump gas from it, which helps you with your buoyancy control. And then, as well as easy for packing. Anything breaks, you can change it relatively easily on the back plate as well. And after that, the long hose configuration. So with this configuration, the backup hose is on a bungee that's around your neck. So anything that happens to your primary hose, which is 2 meters long, then the backup is just there. You can reach in and put it into your mouth, as opposed to having the octopus, which should be stored somewhere, but they have a tendency to come out, drag behind you in the sand. If you need it, you've got to spend some time trying to find it. Then when it comes down to donating gas as well, the long hose, it came out of caves, but it also works well in open water. So it gives you a little bit more space. You're not right up in somebody's face when you're sharing gas, which makes a stressful situation more stressful. And so that long hose gives you a little bit of space. You've now shared gas multiple times during the course. And it kind of doesn't matter whether it's your regulator or your buddies. You've got space, it's manageable, and then it's more comfortable to come up, do your stops on the way up, and get to the surface. So I think from that point of view, it's far more comfortable. Despite it being 2 meters long, when you learn how to route it and it goes nice and securely against your body, it doesn't vibrate in currents. You don't really notice that it's there. There's no kind of drag from it as well, which makes things a little bit more comfortable to use.
I don't know if I think I was kind of talking to you about it in the beginning of the course where I was like, I am kind of torn on, because my goal is to get back into teaching next year.
Yep.
And I was torn between like, okay, should I still teach the standard octo, standard alternate air source, because that's what most commonly seen. And to be honest, after the course, seeing how simple it is, I was like, okay, I think the long hose route is the route to go, because obviously a lot of people out there, I mean, some people might not know what the long hose is, but once you have it down, it's super, super simple. So I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. Also, too, I think we were chatting about this, and hopefully it's a common problem, or maybe I was just the only one. But the one of the biggest things that I realized I was doing wrong from the get-go was that my back plate was too high. And is that something that you see often? People think that it has to be higher?
Everybody comes in thinking the tighter the arm straps can be, the better it is. And because of that, the tanks end up super high and people cannot lift their heads because the first stage is there, or the manifold, if you're diving doubles, is there. And then you're like, just lift your head up, look forward, and people they cannot. And so the only way to look forward is they come out of trim, lift their entire bodies up to see. So I do spend an awful lot of time shifting people's tanks down their bodies a little bit. And again, putting the waistband around the hips helps, distributes the weight a little bit more, so it makes walking around with the tanks a little bit more comfortable. As well, I'm not sure people really realize that there's different sizes of back plates, because over here people are have smaller torsos, so the smaller back plate helps because it gives us a little bit more space to shift that tank down their back. A lot more comfortable for people to wear that way.
Yeah, no, definitely it was I was kind of like mind blown, because I always just had it a lot higher, straps a little bit tighter, and I thought like, okay, this is the way. So that was one of the eye-opening situations through the fundamentals class.
But even after we lowered it, there was like no issues in reaching tank valves.
Oh yeah. No, it was. Yeah, like I said, it was kind of a wow moment in my eyes, because I was like, you're it's almost counterintuitive, because you're like thinking, oh, I'm bringing it lower, but it's not. Yeah, it's kind of a still kind of trying to grasp the concept around it, but I get it. But I'm just like, okay, that's, I get it.
Yeah, it's like everybody.
So, and then that actually, now I would like to ask, like, because we're kind of talking about fundamentals now, or we've been talking about fundamentals. What are some of the common problems that you see when someone, I don't want to say just off the street, enrolls in a fundamentals course, but obviously I'm assuming you get a wide variety of skill levels going and signing up for a fundamentals course. Is there common problems that you see across the board, or is there certain ones that you see more than others?
There's a variety, and each person will come in with their reason for wanting to do the fundamentals course. Some people, and I get a lot of people who feel a bit nervous and want to improve their skills. And so I've had a lot of people who don't like water in their masks, so we spend quite a long time sorting that out. People who are not comfortable exchanging regulators. A lot of people want to do or come into the fundies saying, I really want to be able to deploy an SMB. I can't do it without kind of shooting to the surface, or that they've not learned to deploy an SMB in earlier courses that they've done. So you get a lot of people who are coming in early on wanting to learn that. Everybody has this kind of paranoia, I don't know whether that's the right word, about going backwards as well. So everyone's always like, nope, can't do that. And like, that's why you're here to learn. We will teach you how to do it. Other times I have people coming in who are pretty solid, who are coming to learn the GUE, the teamwork approach, to improve their situational awareness to get them ready to go off and do the Tech Arcade courses.
So with the fundamentals course, if you were going to, because we were kind of having this conversation, I was like, oh man, I felt I needed a lot more prep before the class. Is that something that you see or not see? Like what is your suggested route to go into a fundamentals, if that question makes sense?
As in whether people should practice beforehand or not.
Yes.
I'm kind of in the mindset that you come to the course to learn. And so if you're going to put hours in to practice before the course, you need to make sure that what you're practicing is correct. And if you have not been taught how to do it, then how do you know what the SOP is, whether you're sure that everything you're doing is correct? So I would say you come in, you learn it in the course, and then all those hours you would have put into practice beforehand, you can put it in and practice afterwards to cement the skills that you've learned, to make them kind of muscle memory, to get you more comfortable with it, and then you would progress after that. Because it would be very difficult if you've come in and you've spent all this time practicing and somewhere you've picked up something that's not correct, and then you have to unlearn that and relearn it again.
You know, to be honest, I going into the class, because I'll hear, like I said, a lot of misconceptions going in. You changed my mind on a lot of different things. I was like, okay, is there any skills that I'm going to have to unlearn going into this class?
And were there?
I don't think so, because I feel most times going into courses these days, I try to keep a very open mindset, and I don't think that I had any skills just so ingrained that I wasn't able to kind of back away from that, or just maybe over the course of years I've kind of gotten tips and pointers that have led me in the right direction. But do you see, I'm assuming, do you see that a lot where people have to unlearn what they've been doing for so many years?
It depends on the level of somebody coming in. So I see it a lot for people. I mean, if people have learned on their knees, the moment you stress them out by getting them to do skills, they usually end up trying to get back into that kneeling position. And some of the people who find it hardest have been instructors from other agencies who spend an awful lot of time teaching whilst kneeling. And then they will automatically go back into that position. So it takes them a little bit more time to unlearn it and then be able to do it in trim. So yeah, but the people who like Rec 1 divers, when they have no preconceived ideas, come in, and it's amazing that neutral buoyancy, neutral trim becomes their default when getting stressed. And you've seen, there was one girl who recently she was proposed to underwater, and so we'd set this whole thing up, and I was like, okay, let's see what the reaction is going to be. And she barely moved. Her feet got very excited, and she did this kind of like shuffling thing, and you could see that that excitement was there, but she didn't lose control of buoyancy and positioning and didn't drop the ring, which was very good. So it is incredible that what you learn first is what you default to. And so a lot of the time in fundamentals, if people are coming in early with, like, I see a lot of people coming in with 4 dives straight after their open water, and they will pick up doing skills neutrally buoyant a little bit more quickly as well.
No, so that, yeah, because that's always like a big worry of mine. But I that's why I try to take every and I kind of I've stolen this idea from people that I've heard, doing this, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. But I try to take a course. I try to not have a gap too long of a gap in between me taking courses, because it keeps me in that fresh mindset of wanting to learn and not just be set in my ways. And so, like, I obviously I'm not, like I said, I'm in my eyes still a relatively new divers. I think started in 2016, so it's that 7 years under my belt.
It's quite a long time now.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's just, there's always that other person that's, I've been doing this for 40 years. Have you ever had somebody come in with that amount of time to do fundamentals, like 20 plus years, 30 plus years?
No. I think the most I've had is somebody with about 4,000 dives.
Oh, wow. How did that class go?
It was good. From what I remember, it was first time, I think, in doubles after the 4,000 dives and giving that a go. So a good challenge, but a fun course.
Cool.
But as you said, I mean, I recently did a Cave 2 class as well, and it was good to go back to being a student again, to remember what it's like to be a student.
How did the cave course go?
Oh, it was fun. Completely out of my comfort zone, right? Because slightly colder waters. I'm not a natural cave diver either. It took me a long time to do Cave 1. I think I was finally convinced to do it in about 2019. It was just before COVID, so I went to Mexico to do that. And you always see the pictures of people in helmets squeezing themselves through small holes, and I would have all these stories being told to me, and I was like, this is the last thing I want to do. Like, I have no desire to wedge myself through small gaps in rocks that's that small. So obviously then I went and did Cave 1, and the caves were a lot bigger than I had anticipated. I did find myself looking for fish. I just realized how much I'm swimming around, and I don't think I appreciated rock formations at that point. Went and dived in Florida, and then COVID happened, and I was like, oh, well, I guess that's the end of my cave certification. It kind of stuck around here. And then January this year, went and dived in Bao in Indonesia, and these caves were full of what looked like coral and giant clams, and the seabed was littered with shells, and I was like, this is cool. I quite like this. And then we went back in April and realized that Cave 2 would be useful, because a lot of these caves are not really explored. There would have been more navigational decisions than I was certified to do, so the other guys went off to do that, and I went and dived and got shown some really nice areas of the cave, but I was like, okay, it would be quite nice to go a little bit further. So mentioned this, and then it ended up going off to go Cave 2 in Sardinia with Mara, which was a good experience. I seemed to break everything during that cave course. I don't know what happened. It was an interesting week, but it just goes to show you what you can deal with when the team is there and the fundamentals are right. And when all the strange things happen as well, it was okay.
Okay. Do you have plans to go back to the Indonesia caves?
I want to, yeah. So now I just need to figure out time to get back there and go see them again.
Okay. How did you like the caves in Florida compared to Mexico?
Very different, a lot more flow. So that was kind of learning how to get into those caves. And I will go back next week and what it's like now.
Last few questions for you. How should I phrase this question? I want to say, where would you like to see the recreational side of GUE go? But because I guess, yeah, that's how I'll phrase it. Where would you like to see the recreational side? Because like I said at the beginning, I didn't know that there was this whole recreational side. Now I'm on this kind of mission, this quest that I've spoken to you about, to kind of search out and kind of highlight more and learn more about the recreational side of GUE. So where would you like to see it go? Would you like to see it be more?
I would like to see more people become aware of it, to want to take the course. And I think for those future tech and cave divers to realize that the Rec 2 course would be an amazing advantage before they go off and do the tech or cave courses, in that during the navigation you get to learn how to lay line, which you would then go off and do again in cave, so you could learn to do it and go and practice before your cave classes. The deep course allows you to practice your ascents, which if you're new to GUE and doing it under the times is a great experience and great practice before you go off and do it from slightly deeper depths during the tech courses. So whether your plan is to go off and do tech or cave, or you want to become a more competent recreational diver as well, I think that Rec 2 program is a great course.
Cool. No, and to be honest, Becca being newer diver and me just, always liking to take courses, we're hopeful that it should happen some point in the future. I don't know when to go. She wants to take a Rec 2 course, and I think it would be very fun and interesting to take a Rec 2 course as well. Just because it's always nice to learn new things, learn different outlooks to the same thing, just learning in general, especially in the underwater world, because everybody has different ways of doing things, and I definitely think it would be a really thorough course, and I could see the value in taking a course like that. So cool. And I will keep you updated on my quest, my journey into the finding more information and talking to instructors about the recreational world of GUE.
And talking to students who have done it as well.
Yeah. No, and just seeing both sides of the program, the student side, the instructor side, and hopefully there is more of a push, because I do see that there is this push to get people to learn neutral buoyant, like learn skills neutrally buoyant from the beginning, and kind of get away from learning on the knees, and hopefully it's more like that. But that's why I said I don't know. That's why I'd like to kind of talk to some newer divers to kind of see. It's kind of hard though, because I think when you speak to somebody that doesn't know diving, they don't know what they don't know. So to them, it's like knees, neutral buoyancy. What's the difference,
Yes. I mean, when you're coming into it, it's not a question you would think to ask. It's a thing that's told to you by your friends to say, oh, eventually you want to be able to swim around in control of your depth so that you're not going to crash into anything. But it's not really talked about as how you get there. And then obviously you spend your entire life walking around. And so people tend to be initially more comfortable when they're on their knees. So it's breaking that habit as well. And so the one thing we do in the Rec 1 course is nobody's ever on their knees. You learn everything kind of floating on the surface initially, and then once they're more comfortable with that, you go underwater and they're very easily able to empty masks, change regulators, share gas without ever kneeling. And confidence, and I think for them to be able to ascend and descend in control right from the start, from that first open water dive, is brilliant as the instructor, because you're not worried that one person is on the surface and one person is sinking down really, really fast. They kind of come down together, they're able to stop, they can communicate, and so you're like, okay, all is good. So it's very nice from that point of view as well, slightly less stressful.
Cool. And so usually my last question would be, what advice would you have to newer divers? But I feel like we've kind of went over that, so that probably won't be my last question, just because I feel like literally we just went over all of that. But if you could give yourself advice outside, you're speaking to yourself fresh out of open water, what would that advice be?
The biggest advice I would have had would to talk to people more, to be a lot more confident and chatty on dive trips, because I was not at the beginning. It was quite hard, but now I've met amazing people through diving just by talking to a lot of people, and I think I probably missed out on that quite a lot at the beginning.
Okay, no, it's great advice, because I definitely feel like I've made some lifelong friends as well, and it is kind of a social sport if you think about it.
It's a really social sport, and you get to meet people from a variety of different backgrounds, a variety of different jobs from all around the world. So it's incredible the people that you do meet, And diving is so much more than the time in the water. There's a lot of time on boats. There's a lot of time on surface intervals. Depending on where you go as well, you get stuck on an island where there's no Wi-Fi. There's few restaurants, so you literally spend all day talking to people. And so, from that point of view, it's really nice and social. And one of the things, I guess, that I take quite a lot of pride in, and I like to watch happen from fundamentals classes, is when complete strangers come in and they become really good friends by the end of the course, and then listening to them plan dive trips. And a lot of the time as well, we'll have people come up and they'll be leisure diving whilst I'm teaching. And they start to talk to each other in the evenings as well. And before you know it, there's big groups who are planning trips to go off places, plan their dives. And so I like that social aspect of it. And I like to see these people come from all over the place and then go off and dive together. And then people make me very jealous because I get pictures from people's diving holidays in Raja Ampat, and they let me know what it's been like there and send me pictures of fish. And I'm like, I've never been. It will be great. One day I will get there. But it's really nice that people will keep in touch and tell me how their diving is going.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, even it was me, Becca, and I'm gonna butcher his name.
Shakik.
Yes. We're hopefully gonna plan like a get together, and then also I was gonna seek your help in trying to get like a group together in the KL Kuala Lumpur region, just to meet some other divers that have been through the program. And it would just be great to get in the water. And I don't know if we'll be diving in open water, probably just be a clear water pool, but
KL, it will be in the pool. I'm not sure where else.
I guess there's some lake diving in Malacca, but I don't know how many people are keen to get in there. I'm down for the low visibility stuff, but some people usually...
I'm not sure whether you're allowed to dive there. You need one of the local guys to set that one up.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on to the podcast today. Also, thank you very, very much. I had an amazing time in fundamentals, and I look forward to future courses and just kind of seeing what more of the GUE side of things. And I hate to say like the GUE side of things, but just kind of travel down that road a little bit more and kind of see what there is. So,
yep. And then hopefully get to dive with you again soon.
Yes, definitely. So thank you very much for coming on to the podcast today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Off-gassing, a scuba podcast.